What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome back to tonight's video. A little bit of a late upload. Here's why. I told you in yesterday's QB rankings tier video that it was a toss-up between doing quarterback rankings and ranking the wives and girlfriends of some of the top players. I was thinking maybe doing one per team, trying to find the hottest. I mean, who can define beauty? You know, if you really want to be philosophical for a moment. But let's be honest. Feel like I'm a dude's dude, and I could narrow it down to 32. Either way, we're not going to go into it right now. I get insta flag. I'm going to have to figure out a more creative way to do it so that YouTube keeps it up. I think I know the workaround, and that will be probably in a day or so. I don't want to just have straight up tier list videos. But I just got back from a trip, so still trying to get in the ease of things, and hopefully I have an idea for the next two videos won't be tiers, and then we can get back into maybe positional rankings. We already did QBs, we could do running backs, because I know you guys definitely like the QB rankings, huh? Definitely like me putting Ben Roethlisberger, or Carson Wentz at least, ahead of Ben Roethlisberger. That seemed like the big talking point, huh? You guys got a lot of future bets on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You guys are really gambling the fact that a 38-year-old that's like the second highest paid quarterback's going to pan out with no superstars around him. Okay, we'll wait and see. We gonna see. So I thought of what could we do here today that would not be as controversial? Because I mean, these whole lists are always gonna be controversial. But I figure, what is the number one thing that everyone's gonna agree upon? Which is what we're gonna do today, and we're gonna rank the fan bases. Oh, this is gonna go over so well. S tier is gonna be the best fan bases. F tier is gonna be the worst fan bases. Now I have to tell you how I'm gonna define it, because best and worst is subjective. I'm gonna put fan bases that matter, I guess. So we're going to set our parameters like this. I'm going to put the Philadelphia Eagles up here at S. And then I'm going to put the Tennessee Titans down here at F. Like, that's the parameter. S is Eagles. So obviously I'm incredibly biased as an Eagle fan. But Eagle fans have a reputation of either you look at them as the most diehard fans in the league if you are a member of the Eagles fan base. Or if you're an outsider looking in as a neutral, you definitely could say Philadelphia has diehard fans. That puts them in S tier. They also go in S tier because a lot of people hate them. I feel like, if you have that balance between you have a legitimate claim to being a good fan base as well as the notoriety of being an annoying fan base, like more to you, more power to you, without a shadow of a doubt. The Philadelphia Eagles get S tier whether you view us as a positive or negative. You still think about our fan base. But then we have the Tennessee Titans. Not much going on. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit impressed with the draft. I thought they had good vibes down there at the draft. But ultimately, they're the Titans. Like, do they have any notable fans? Have they ever done anything? Do they sell out their games? No one knows. They're just an incredibly passive, boring team, which I kind of think their fan base reflects their on-field product. They are not an exciting team any way you cut it. They're effective. They're efficient at times. But I think ultimately, when you talk about hype fan bases that have notoriety, fan bases that are known as diehards, you don't think about the Tennessee Titans whatsoever. So those are the parameters. We have the Eagles, we have the Titans. Now let's get into the rest of this list. This is gonna be fun. So we have the Atlanta Falcons here. I'm gonna put the Falcons here at a C. You got the Dirty Birds. They got some. The stadium's usually rocking. That stadium usually is rocking. They have a good home field advantage in that dome, but ultimately, they're kind of an annoying fan base a little bit. The memes about the Patriots, some of that was warranted. Other of it, they just wouldn't get over it. So I feel like ultimately C's a fair grade. They're a middle fan base. They're not a bad fan base. They're definitely not a great fan base. They're a good fan base. I feel like C's like you're entering good to great territory, very middle of the park, trending towards one of the better fan bases. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like for the Ravens, just one below that in D. I was a little bit surprised. Off the top of my head, when I was kind of doing like a quick run through of this, I was like, where do I put Baltimore? And I feel like the fact that I just don't know really anything about the fan base, in terms of content and stuff, like they don't do well in videos particularly. They're going to be, maybe we'll see that change in Madden 20 because they're going to be a popular team to use. You get Lamar Jackson, you're going to have Hollywood Brown. They've always had a really good defense, but I kind of feel like they're a little bit of, there's not a lot going on in that fan base. Maybe, I almost want to give them, props. You know what? I'm actually going to change right on the fly because you know what? When they won the Super Bowl, they weren't like obnoxious about it. I'm going to give them bonus points for that. When the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl, they just kind of like, yeah, we're pumped that Ray Lewis got another one. Some of their veteran players got another ring, and they moved on with it. And I feel like while they're a little bit of a nothing fan base, you don't really know what's the reputation? They don't really do a whole lot. I feel like they handled that Super Bowl win with class. They weren't in your face about it, which, again, depending on how you feel about the Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to think they were the same, or Philadelphia Eagle fans were incredibly obnoxious. I feel like the Ravens took it in stride. So, you know what? I'm going to bump them up in the C tier. We got the Carolina Panthers. They're definitely going D. Not a lot going on. They have the drums, keep pounding. They're not they're not a bad fan base. They're just a fan base. I feel like nothing crazy going on there. And they got all right support. Again, another thing I do videos on every team in the National Football League. I can just straight up tell by views what fan bases are super interactive. What are the hype fan bases? And you don't really get that with the Carolina Panthers. And with the Panthers, the only ever time you get them riled up is when you say Cam Newton's slightly overrated. You say anything remotely negative about Cam Newton. So, they do have that little bit of a trigger warning. I'm a little bit annoyed at times with their defense of Cam Newton, so I'm putting them D tier. We got the Chicago Bears. We'll put the Bears A tier. You know what? They're a good fan base. I think they're a real good fan base. They handled the double doink last season fairly well. Really, the only negative experience I've had with the Bears fan base was the whole Alshon Jeffrey thing. And you know what? You can always be a little bit salty when you lose a player like that who went on to the Philadelphia Eagles for probably less money than what the Bears were offering him. But historic fan base. Really popular, notable. Soldier Field, great home field advantage. Bears videos do well, so I put the Chicago Bears right there in A tier. Cincinnati Bengals, not gonna lie, Bengals, little bit of a nothing fan base. Videos don't do particularly well. You had the icky shuffle. That's like the most notable thing that's ever got behind that fan base. It was always more the on-field product. When you talk about anything that's ever exciting happened in Cincinnati, it's either you're not a fan of the Bengals and you think all their off-field troubles are exciting, or you had like Calvin Johnson, guys doing things on the field. Ultimately, not a very exciting fan base. Definitely F tier for my opinion. We got the Browns. I think the Browns, you know what? I'm putting Browns in the A tier as well, because win or lose, now optimism is very high that the Browns are gonna be able to take their season success to another level. But even when they sucked, they were still they're going out there with paper bags over their head. So the worst at times, the Browns videos were there, and the best at times, I assume that support is going to be electric. And Browns are always a great video. They have a very supportive fan base. They're the top rebuild for the last 5 years on YouTube. It made me a lot of money, the Cleveland Brown fan base here, so I'm going to put them in A tier. We have the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately, are going in the A tier. You might be a little bit surprised. I feel like if they had a little bit more recent success, they probably would go right up in S tier. Because in terms of just pure hatred, I don't think there's, maybe the Patriots, but I don't think there's any other fan base that gets more hate, more deserved hate, in my opinion, than the Dallas Cowboys. But it's still like one of those things where they have no recent success. So it's just, you can always just put it off. Like, oh, how about them Cowboys and all that stuff? If you have that arrogant Eagle fan, we can always refer to the Super Bowl that we just won a couple years ago. But when you have that arrogant Cowboy fan, they start talking about things that happened 20 years ago. And I know a lot of you guys watching this video weren't even alive when the Dallas Cowboys won their last Super Bowl. So it's very easy to brush it off when they try to bring up the good old days versus something that's a little bit more recent. But in terms of annoying fan base, definitely one of the most annoying fan base. And I say that with full bias as a Philadelphia Eagle fan. We have the Denver Broncos, and I'm gonna put the Denver Broncos here. They'll go. They're legit. They're between. I think they have a really good fan base, but I think a big part of their home field advantage is the elevation. That's not really them as a fan base. They do have, they bring it. They bring it all the time. They weren't super annoying when they won the Super Bowl and stuff like that, which I weigh in their value, but. They're kind of an annoying fan base from a video content perspective. Anytime I do anything about the Denver Broncos, kind of annoying. There's just not a lot going on. I feel like the biggest advantage, the biggest thing you think of when you think of the Denver Broncos at home game is more so the location of where the stadium is, not as much what the kind of environment that the fans have, but still really good fan base. We'll give them a B. Green Bay Packers, they'll go A. Historic fan base. The fact that they can go to that Lambeau Field, that's garbage. Garbage, is how you want to interpret it. It's also kind of good if you really want that old school feel, but very supportive fan base. Videos do well. We'll give them an A. Houston Texans, a little bit of a nothing fan base. I'll put them here in E tier. They're all right. There's just kind of like a passive fan base. Let's kind of go through more of the who cares fan bases. Detroit Lions, I feel like I feel like we can put the line. They're like a hybrid because they're so bad. They're kind of like the Browns to an extent that they're so bad and they still get good support. They just don't know much about them. I'll put the Lions D. They're like a low D tier. We'll put the 49ers. 49ers go D. They're a little bit notorious. There's a lot of mishaps that happen at 49er games. I have a buddy that's a Niner fan. Anytime something sketchy happens and it gets posted on social media, he'll find a way to tag me in it. So we'll put the Niners D tier. We got the Cardinals. Your stadium's like a university state. Like, don't they split it, or is that just the naming rights of it? Either way, I feel like the Cardinals, they go F tier. Dolphins will go E tier. Two teams that just don't. I mean, the Dolphins do have history. I feel like if you're a Dolphin fan, you get bonus points for supporting a team that's just not that good and hasn't been good since like the 70s. But you're not much going on. They struggle to sell their games. Not much of a home field advantage. I feel like the Colts probably go D tier. Not much there. I mean, you got that AFC finalist banner. Ugh, that one thing that was done by your drunk owner has soured me on your fan base. Even though I want to try to like you. I like Andrew Luck. I like Frank Reich as your new head coach, but take down that banner for God's sakes. The Raiders, you got the black hole. They're notorious. I'm putting the Raiders here at B. They got a pretty savage fan base. You got the black hole, and they have everything going that you shouldn't be a fan. That like their stadium is asterisk. Put an asterisk because it's not even a football stadium. It's been like that multi-purpose. Like they should have no fans. They should literally be the Chargers, who I'm putting in the F, but they're not. The black hole still comes out there. They're absolute savages. And they try their best to instill that home field advantage, even though they're in the worst stadium scenario in the NFL. So they go B. Chargers, without a doubt, go F. And so do the Rams. These two new relocating teams, they don't even sell out. It's not even a home field advantage. Half the stadium's usually the opposing team. You go in F all damn day. What else we got? We got the Jags. Jags go F. Again, slightly... the tides are changing for the Jacksonville Jaguar fan base. There was a nice little window a year or two ago. They're actually kind of looking a little good, but it's an oversaturated market. Saying goes, you throw the Bucks in there. There's just too much going on in Tampa Bay, in Jacksonville, in the state of Florida. You don't need three teams. You definitely don't need three teams. We'll take the Washington Redskins. We'll put them at C. You got, a little bit old school fan base when they had the Hogs. They have good support. Again, you can kind of put them in the same thinking of like the Lions and the Browns. They have decent support for a team that has no reason to get behind their team. But FedEx Field has been, inconsistent. They do give up. They give up right away. As soon as things start getting tough and it looks like the season's gone, they stop coming. But for every single year, for the first 8 weeks, it's a nice home field advantage there at FedEx Field. So we'll give them a soft C grade, but definitely middle of the park. We'll take the Jets. Jets will go about the same, kind of literally almost the same as the Washington Redskins. Jets had a little bit more success recently with the Rex Ryan era. But again, they had the Fireman Ed a couple years ago. They had a couple famous fans. The videos do well on the channel. You don't really hear any negative or positive things, I guess you could say, about Jet fans. So I'll put them right in the middle. Minnesota Viking fans, they are going to go E tier. Very annoying fan base. They got that skull chant is so annoying. You stole that from soccer. You didn't come up with it. The fact that they're trying to make that as their own is kind of cringy. The way they handled everything in the offseason last year after they lost to the Eagles, after the miracle at the Meadowlands, trying to get the Philadelphia Eagles petitioned out of the Super Bowl because their fans were mean. I'm never not going to remember that. And literally, you can Google that. It was a real thing. Not a good look on the fan base, even though you're not as rough as F tier. I'm not going to be completely biased and put them F tier, but a very annoying fan base. All right, we got the Giants. I think that the Giants will go B. They're not as bad as the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, I'm coming to this from a biased perspective as an Eagle fan, but they're a little bit annoying. They handled their Super Bowls though. Those two Super Bowls they had beating the Patriots. They did a big favor to the rest of the league, and their fan base wasn't super obnoxious. I felt like when they won those Super Bowls, so they're right around a B fan base. Very confrontational, which is what you get for most NFC East teams. So they're not a bad fan base by any means, but definitely I'll put them probably B. They're upper echelon, but not top tier. Buffalo Bills Mafia, they'll go right there at B too. Not a lot to cheer for, but they still get really good support, decent home field advantage. They jump through tables. They had that Poncho Bill, whatever his name was. I'm probably butchered, but he was, a super fan. That was pretty well notable. So we'll put them. They're literally a flex here between B and A. But for right now, we'll put them B tier. Kansas City Chiefs. I'm putting them B. They could very well go A tier, but I feel like they're between this. Get the loud stadium, good home field advantage. They're just, there's not a lot. Kansas City Chief videos, just in general, Kansas City Chief content doesn't do particularly well. They don't have a great online presence for a fan base, which, you got to encompass everything. We're talking about these fans. You got to talk about notoriety, hatred, likability, support. I'm a YouTuber. What do the videos do in terms of content? And, Kansas City just doesn't get enough on that online side of things for me to put them up into the A tier. But they're a flex. Sometimes they can be A, sometimes they can be B. But we'll take maybe the more controversial approach and put them in B tier. Patriots are going S tier. Most people hate them. They're the most. If you're the most hated franchise in sports, you're going S tier because everyone hates them. They have one universal trait that all 31 other teams despise, and that is their success. So without a shadow of doubt, they are going in S tier. We're taking the Saints. Put the Saints probably A. They would be S, but I'm literally almost contradicting myself when I'm talking about this list because of they just can't get over the hit. They think that everyone screwed them and all this stuff. And yeah, well, it was a terrible call. It was an absolute terrible call against the Rams. But you know what also happened? Drew Brees threw an interception in playoffs in overtime and cost you. You had a chance still to win. And I feel like even if I was an Eagle fan and in the inverse happened, the Eagles got absolutely robbed, if we still had an opportunity in overtime and we threw an interception, that was game over kind of thing, I'd get over it a lot sooner than the Saints were. But the Saints were incredibly petty, and because of that, I think I'm knocking them out of S tier. We'll take the Steelers fans. I want to put them F tier just from the last video where I was talking about QB rankings. But again, really, really good fan base. I think I'll put them S tier. You know what? They're that combination of like a good fan base. They have the history that some of these like the Chiefs and Packers and Bears have. They had the success though. They got the 6 rings. They're not really an overly annoying fan base. They're going through a lot right now. They just lost Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. They don't have a whole lot to show for it now that the dust has settled. But they're a good fan base. Great home field advantage at Heinz Field. Online content does fairly well, just to put that in there. So I think they're S tier. And then we got the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to put the Seahawks, they're going to be B. They could be A, but I know they have a lot of fair weather fans. A lot of people just jumped on the Seahawks bandwagon once they get the Legion of Boom Air and stuff like that. Always going to negatively weigh that against your team. But still, great home field advantage. Pretty loud, very similar to the Kansas City Chiefs. They always have that back and forth of who's the loudest stadium. So I feel like, both, pretty much almost all these teams in B could be flexing A. It's pretty fluid between B and A, but I'm really, really easy here and pretty much don't think my opinion could be changed on the S and F tier franchises. So I'm sure a lot of guys are going to be very happy with how I rank their fan bases here in today's video. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comment section below. If you have any ideas for future tier list videos, let me know in the comments. And subscribe if you're new. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.